Leah spoke of planting and praying. And this is a moment now where we want to put aside a little time for the latter, for the praying. I want to thank you, Leah, for reminding us of how farming is both a material and a spiritual undertaking. So we want to turn now fully to the spirit and to remember that we have lost a really, really great friend and leader in Enid Wonnacott. So no matter how old you are, no matter the color of your skin, no matter how much you have or don't have in your bank account, or who you voted for, or the choices you make about land, there are moments and people that bring us together. There are moments and people that honestly we should never ever forget. And I think this is one of those moments, and I really believe that Enid was one of those people. So just a month ago, Enid NOFA lost a colleague of 31 years, and our farming community lost a fiercely warm advocate who led us with policy, song, and food. And our state lost a favorite daughter, a woman who reminded us constantly of our relationship to each other and to the land. So our community really does need this moment to reconnect and to remember Enid, to consider what we will do with the example of her life, right? I mean, that's the point, and to celebrate her. So I want to invite up here three folks who are going to help us to remember Enid: Andy Jones, Scout Proft, Jack Lazor. Would you all please come up? Scout. So a few other things. While they're coming on stage, I want to invite Lila Frank and Eli Frank, Enid's kids, to allow us to reconnect with Enid by holding and passing one of her famous heartstones that Enid loved to connect. Can I invite you two to do that? So when these two stones have silently passed through all 1,000 of you here, I want the last people to touch them to return them to Eli and Lila. There are also seed packets on everyone's chairs, right? Those are thanks to Tom Stearns and High Mowing Seed Company. Hold these dearly, okay? Put them in your pockets. Hold them in your hands now. So this spring, we're going to ask all 1,000 of you to celebrate Enid by planting flowers across Vermont. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment. Jack, could I ask you to begin?
Well, it's great that everybody's here to honor Enid. I want to say that I knew Enid even before she went to work for NOFA. She used to, in the mid-'80s, be our sort of shuffle person who would take our yogurt from Burlington down to the Middlebury Food Co-op once a week. We would always rendezvous somewhere, maybe have a coffee or something, and then she would take the yogurt to Middlebury, and she was just, I said, my God, this is an incredible gal. And then after that, she asked me to do a little, she was at UVM doing grad work, and then after that, I remember she had a little conference about, one of the very, very first conferences here at UVM about sustainability and localism, and she asked me to be a speaker at that conference, and so our relationship gradually built, and at that time it were the very early days of NOFA, and we were an OCIE chapter, and then we became the Vermont Organic Farmers, and then NOFA was all of a sudden. A couple of years later, NOFA was Enid was our director, and so I think what I can really say about Enid is you all know what a wonderful person she was, and Ann and I went to visit her in Huntington at her house on the 27th of December, 2 days after Christmas, and it was a beautiful sunny afternoon, And, Enid, you could tell that she had really, her body had diminished, but her face and she was so beautiful and just so, her eyes were so bright and her smile was the same smile. And all she could worry about was, are you folks going to have a place to stay at Shelburne Farms when the NOFA conference comes? I said, here you are, Enid, you're in a hospice. I didn't say that to Enid, but that was Enid. She always put everybody else before herself and built a lot of community in the process. And we would not all be sitting in this room here today with this wonderful organization that has, come so far to change our relationships with the land, our relationships with each other, in the last 31 years, if it wasn't for Enid. So I just honor her so, so much, and we miss her so much. We've got such a big hole, but it means that we take her legacy and we proceed forward with her light and her wisdom and keep making the world a better place and keep loving each other. Thank you.
Someone said I could cry for 10 minutes, but I'm not gonna, because Abby told me I gotta do this. So, to celebrate the past, to celebrate the present, and to empower us in the future, I wish for us all to have a new mantra. WWED. Kirsten says we're gonna make bumper stickers. What would Enid do? Well, we know one thing that, I have to lower this, I'm a little short, I'm a short farmer. One thing that Enid always does, as her children will attest to, is she writes thank you letters. She probably keeps the Huntington and Richmond post office in business. 75 to 100 a year. This was a packet of 3 years that NOFA and Enid sent to me. So what would Enid do when we need to give thanks? She writes thank you letters. And you know what? So we will too. Remember? Can you say it? So we will too. Thank you. Now, I have 2 more quick stories. We know that Enid goes to meetings time and time again. She goes to, 10 to 20 a week. So, and every single meeting is just as important as the rest. We know that as well. To make every meeting sweet, she brings M&Ms. To make every meeting comfortable, she brings her slippers. And to make sure she can write it off as a NOFA expense, she brings Wendell Berry, her other boyfriend next to Harry. So we got a lot of this at every meeting she went to. What would Enid do? She'd go to a lot of meetings, and so we will too. So after her pug hugging and her talking about her kids all the time and her solo hikes all over the world, what else she do in her spare time? She coaches. What does she coach? She coaches field hockey. She coaches kids on their cross-country skis. She coaches farmer wannabes. She coaches transition farmers. She coaches the young women who nearly lose their farms to divorce. She coaches as if she had time. What would Enid do? So we will too. So in saying that, I just want to celebrate the past. I want us to celebrate the present. And with Enid, we are empowered to celebrate the future. Thank you.
So there are so many things that I think about when I think of Enid. I think of her steadfast, long-term commitment. I think of her heart, her energy. I think of how she brought a light and humorous tone to so many serious things. But when I think about kind of her impact in my life and a lot of her impact in Vermont, it really comes back to her recognition that the people are really at the center and that connection and community is really important. And sort of the foundation, it's a land-based organization. We all work to develop a great farm, to develop a great community, to honor food and honor the people, but it is the people that are the center of that. And so when I was a young 20-something, early 20s farmer back in the 1990s, I remember Enid came to visit my farm on a certification visit, probably the first certification visit that I was going through. And I was a beginning vegetable grower. I'd grown up in a city, and I really didn't know anything. And the farm was kind of in total chaos. There were, weeds growing everywhere. Things weren't planted in, things weren't planted in reasonable rows. We didn't have good growth. We weren't watering. All these different things. And Enid, I remember, was so positive, despite all that. And as we walked around the farm, she would sort of nod her head and say, you might talk to Will. They're doing some great things. They figured out some really great ways of dealing with quackgrass. And we kept going. And she, no matter where we came, she had something really uplifting to say, despite the fact that I was brand new. She had no idea if, like a lot of new farmers, I was no longer going to really be in the business for more than a couple of years. But she was so affirming, and she was welcoming, and she said, as we finished, she said, you should really think about coming to this CSA network, this Community Supported Agriculture Farm working group with other farmers who were trying to sort of figure that out, because that was back in the day, 20 years ago, when CSA was a weird concept, and it was hard to get farmers excited about it, and it was hard to get consumers excited about it. So that led by Enid saying, come in the tent, come join, led to really, I think, me being here more than 20 years later. Without that, I don't know whether I would have stayed with it. And I am forever grateful to Enid for her faith, her valuing of everybody at every turn. The last time I saw Enid was in December, and the NOFA board met at her house, and as Jack was saying, she wasn't too mobile at that point, but she was still full of light and so happy to see people, and I think she really just couldn't imagine the board meeting without her, so if that meant it was going to have to be in her living room, so be it. Thank you to Harry and Lila and Eli for sharing your house. But even at that meeting, to the very end, Enid was thinking about and working, it was clear to me, to reach out and bring ever more people and ever more relationships into the NOFA tent. There was a young, relatively new farmer who was new to the board, who was sort of the first representative of a veterans farming group, and Enid clearly saw that was a direction that NOFA should reach out and bring this additional group of people into NOFA's tent. So I will miss Enid's cheerful voice. I'll miss her humor, but I will, as Scout was saying, what I will take forward is remembering that it really is about the people, and it's about the relationships that we form, and it's about the work that we all do together that really inspires me going forward, and for that I will always treasure that lesson from Enid and think about her forever all.
There's been a shift probably that all of us can most profoundly feel just in this moment. For 31 years, this beautiful, powerful woman connected us, cajoled us, brought us together, talked us up. And now, for the first time, we're talking her up, and she's not here. So I just want to invite for a moment us all to just take a moment of personal reflection and take in that beautiful face over our shoulders and offer what prayers you have to her yourself. And we'll rejoin in just a minute. That work that Enid started and pulled us all into 32 years ago lives on, and it's bigger now than her. It's bigger than all of us. And I think Scout's call to us is really important. What would Enid do? Or more importantly now, or equally important, is what will we do? What will we do with the example of her life, with our lives? How might we walk with Enid's openness, inclusivity, and her fierceness? Each of us in this room, I hope you can just consider how to do that, how to live today a little bit differently because of all that she brought to us. So there's some really easy things you can do this spring. We invite you to plant all those seeds. Just think about 1,000 different places, patches of flowers across Vermont. 31 or 32? 31 apple trees, one for each year of Enid's service, will be planted at various farms and tended to for as long as those trees are there. Enid was always there when we needed her, right? And we need to be there now for NOFA. So if you have the desire and the means, please also consider a gift to the Enid Fund. You know, we were able to establish this when Enid was still alive, and it was invigorated 3 weeks ago by her friends and colleagues just to make sure that her steadfast belief in the really big things in life, the big lasting values in life, work, love, feeding one another, voice, listening, absolutely, that we need each other to succeed, that all of that is going to continue firmly anchored in NOFA Vermont's work for generations to come. So we set out to create a fund that is as grand and substantial as the woman herself. And hundreds of people from all over the state have been inspired to donate, and we've raised $75,000. It's crazy. But get this. There's a dear, dear friend of Enid's who will forever remain anonymous, who's given a gift to match every single gift that will be made here today, dollar for dollar, up to $25,000. So I think we'll go beyond $100,000. So there are lots of ways you can do that. You know, pick up your phone, go to NOFA Vermont, grab a staff member, grab anyone, write a check, however you want to do that. Plant seeds. Tend to your loved ones. Consider today how we will walk differently in our farming and our lives with her. Please join that work however you can with all of your strength. I want to invite up now Enid's beloved Harry to say some final words to us. And Eli, and Lila, and many others.
Okay, well, I thought this would be easier if I had my family around, so they're coming up here. And actually, I'm feeling pretty good. I didn't think I'd be able to do this, but something about being here for a little bit this morning. So, look, I want to thank you for celebrating Enid's efforts and accomplishments together with her spirit and style, because Enid really never separated the two. You know, who she was and what she did for work, those were always the same. And she found beautiful and creative ways to blend that life and to blend us into it, her work life and her family life. So I want to just tell you a few things that stand out for me about being her partner. When Enid first began working with you all, she would often put the bulk mailings together while we watched a movie. Yeah, and it kind of became a ritual, like we couldn't really watch a movie unless we were doing a mailing. So for a while, I actually knew almost everybody's name and address. So it was funny to go to conferences and feel like, oh, I know what your address is, and that kind of thing. So, okay, this is great. I think it's going really well. Thanks for... Okay, well then, and there's some great pictures downstairs, and some of my favorites are the ones that show Enid with Lila and Eli. When they were little young babies, she took them everywhere to meetings and events. And she would come home and she'd show me these pictures, you know, like when they posed with the governor to shake, and Enid would have like Lila in her arm and the governor would be shaking her hand. That was like some of my all-time favorite pictures of them. But there are also pictures of you all, NOFA members and members of the staff on people's farms and at markets, like I said, at the State House. And the thing that I loved about those pictures was, like, you could tell who Enid was, and that in this picture too. I think it's because they're full of color and energy, and I feel like you get a sense of how much she cares just from the picture. Maybe many of you know this, but Enid often worked until 2 in the morning. Yeah, I mean, like 5 days a week, because she had to finish grants or do budgets or projects she was working on, newsletter articles. And I knew she did that because she wanted to be there for us as a family, I think for her friends, for our whole family. And she also wanted to do it for her field hockey players and her skiers. And I feel like she knew to be able to do what she wanted to do during the day, she had to do that. And, you know, it was a blessing to feel a part of all that good work, because she was constantly coming up with new ideas. I didn't even write this, but she would often get out of the shower and she'd like, okay, I got this great idea. And she would like, there was something about getting in the shower that just got her. And I think that's where the pizza oven idea came from. And the Farmer Olympics, which are just amazing. But you should know that in the past few months, Enid often said to me how surprised she was that she was being recognized for her work. Like she said, you know, I didn't expect that. And I think it was just an expression of just sincere appreciation, which was so admirable. I just was like, wow. I mean, there are lots of things that I said wow about with her, but then I want to thank you. I feel like you all have given us so many gifts. You know, Enid used to come home with animals, you know, that, well, a lot of animals that have lived in our barns came from farms. Like we still have this one, we call it the lame duck, because it can't really walk, but it's like 10 years old. And I don't know where, but so we have animals from you. There's, I mean, so much food. Enid would come home with like a 10-pound bag of carrots or bags of spinach or sausage or just so many great things for us to eat. There's beautiful artwork. I know we said Bonnie's name already, but gosh, I mean, our house, we lived in our house for like 10 years before we put anything on the walls, mostly because we have a beautiful house with these beautiful windows. But Enid was like, we ought to just put up and so we put Bonnie's paintings in our house. And then one of my favorites, like people who gave our dogs treats. Like Enid always liked to have our dogs along. And even now, in the past few months, your visits have been so thoughtful. The number of cards we have hung around the house that are just so touching, and the meals, and then your Enid-like hugs, too. I also want you to know, as she saw herself moving away from working with you day to day, she still talked about the pizza oven. I think she even had dates in her calendar when she was going to go work with the pizza crew. Like, she just didn't think it was coming to an end. She had ideas for the best routes to travel on her statewide walk from farm to farm. And I don't know if you know, but she had completed the training to begin certifying farms again. She was like going to go back to the work that she did when she first started with NOFA. And then she was still thinking about you on the last night she was alive. She'd been quiet for a good part of that day, but in the evening she grew quite animated and really talkative. And she asked each one of us to sit with her. She was full of energy and ideas, things she had in mind for each of us, and things she had in mind for the work with you all. So she was particularly concerned that we make sure that the chicken report was completed. She told us what to do to complete the report, who to send it to, and when it was due. And then once she was convinced, and it took a little while, I felt like she made sure she talked to each of us so that we weren't going to. So once she was convinced that we would take care of the chicken report, she asked us about the dairy numbers. But after trying to explain a little bit about the dairy numbers, she said, and this is almost a direct quote, she said, "You know what? Scrap that request. Just focus on the chicken report." So, like you will miss Enid. And my cousin wrote me this lovely phrase I want to finish with. She said, "We'll miss Enid and her wide embrace of all things organic. Real food, real people, and real love." So thank you.
We wish that Enid was here singing with us, but we know that she is here with us. And I know that she believed that music was connective tissue, a connection to the people around us in whichever room we were, and connection to those which we can't see or hear. And I know that she believed in the connection to our soil and to the land. So as we sing today, we can connect to all those we love. We can bring them into our hearts. We can bring Enid into our hearts. We can start this song that she picked. It's called "We Shall Be Known" by a band called Mammoose. And it's not a long song, but a profound one. And we'll teach it to you, but first let's warm up our voices. Let's start with some oohs just to warm up our voices. And as we sing our oohs, I'll share a few melody lines. You can pick the ooh that is right for you. Here's the first one we could choose from, and you can pick your octave too. I'll take the higher one here. We'll go. one response. I'll sing the line, the melody, and then we can sing it all together. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. Let's sing that all together. We could sing. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. Very nice. And the next line. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. Let's sing that again together. We could sing. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. Very nice. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. Let's sing that again. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. And the final part. It is time now. And what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. Let's sing that one more time. It is time now. And what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. Let's sing it all together from the beginning. We'll go. 2, 3, 4. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now. And what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We could sing. Let's sing even louder. We could sing.
It is time now. Walk with love, walk with Enid, walk differently, walk to the workshops. You can be late, but we should continue with our day. Thank you all so much. Much love to everyone.